The morning reaches this narrow strip of land with a slow and deliberate pace, moving across the textures of the brick and the grain of the wood. There is a specific kind of silence that lives in the gaps between a house and its boundary, a quiet that feels structural and permanent. Here, the air does not seem to circulate so much as it rests, held in place by the height of the walls and the density of the green life clinging to the edges of the path. The stone bench remains cool to the touch, its surface catching the shifting shapes of light that manage to break through the canopy above. Every pebble in the gravel remains exactly where it was left, settled into a stillness that suggests days or weeks of undisturbed presence. To look at this space is to understand the value of the perimeter, the way a home extends its influence just a few feet outward to claim a piece of the world for nothing more than quiet. It is a place where the passage of time is marked only by the slow migration of shadows across the moss, a rhythmic and wordless measurement of the day. There is no requirement for movement here, no call for action or change. The enclosure provides a sense of absolute arrival, a destination that requires no further travel than stepping out the side door. In this small, framed slice of the outdoors, the world feels finite and manageable, reduced to the essential elements of stone, leaf, and light. The stillness is not an absence of life, but a concentration of it, a steady pulse that vibrates within the enclosure of the home's shadow. It is a scene of total compliance with the environment, where the house and the garden have reached a silent agreement to remain exactly as they are. The white walls hold the warmth of the afternoon long after the sun has begun its descent, reflecting a soft and diffused glow into the center of the courtyard. This space is defined by its edges, a clean and intentional boundary that separates the domestic interior from the open sky above. The chair sits in a state of perpetual waiting, its wooden frame silvered by exposure to the elements, yet looking entirely integrated into the geometry of the patio. There is a profound sense of privacy within these four walls, a feeling that the outside world has been successfully kept at bay. The slate tiles underfoot are dry and dusty, holding the heat of the day in a way that radiates upward, warming the lower leaves of the potted tree. Nothing moves. Even the thin branches of the olive seem frozen in the golden light, casting a sharp and steady silhouette against the pale plaster. This is the architecture of peace, a room without a ceiling where the only decoration is the play of light and the gradual deepening of the shadows in the corners. The scale is intimate, designed for a single occupant or perhaps just for the sake of the emptiness itself. It is a contained world, a small square of existence where the complexity of daily life is filtered through the simplicity of the enclosure. The house is just a step away, its presence felt in the solid mass of the wall and the familiar angle of the roofline peeking into the frame. Here, the silence is heavy and comforting, a blanket of stillness that settles over the stones and the wood, creating a sanctuary of the mundane. To step down into this garden is to enter a different layer of the home's atmosphere, one that is grounded and sheltered. The concrete of the steps feels solid and enduring, a gray anchor against the lush, dark leaves that thrive in the shadows of the building. The proximity to the glass door creates a blurred line between the living room and the earth, yet the garden remains its own distinct territory, defined by the scent of damp mulch and the coolness of the shaded brick. The metal table is a small, functional island in the sea of green, its surface reflecting the pale sky without distortion. There is no wind to stir the broad leaves of the hostas. They remain broad and flat, drinking in the humidity of the morning. This is a garden of depth and layering, where the verticality of the house provides a protective barrier against the noise of the street. The light here is indirect, a soft wash of blue and gray that emphasizes the texture of the masonry and the smooth skin of the plants. It feels like a secret discovered daily, a private hollow where one can exist without being seen. The emptiness of the glass on the table suggests a recent presence, yet the overriding feeling is one of long-standing quiet. The house leans over the space, its shadow a constant companion to the life that grows here. Everything is contained, intentional, and profoundly still. The world beyond the garden walls feels distant and irrelevant, secondary to the immediate reality of the damp earth and the cool stone. It is a landscape of the immediate, a small world held in the palm of the home's footprint. Midday brings a sharpness to the garden, a clarity of line and form that highlights the texture of every leaf and the grain of every stone. The gravel crunch is absent, replaced by a visual stillness that suggests no one has walked this path for hours. The ivy on the fence is a dense tapestry of greens, a living wall that swallows sound and softens the hard boundary of the property. In the center, the birdbath holds a circle of sky, its water perfectly flat and undisturbed, reflecting the passage of high clouds without a ripple. This is a compact universe, a square of earth that has been curated for stillness. The shadows are short and dark, tucked beneath the edges of the stones and the base of the fence. There is a sense of completion in this small space, a feeling that nothing more could be added without disrupting the balance of the enclosure. The house is visible as a solid corner of dark wood and glass, a guardian to this private retreat. The atmosphere is one of high noon lethargy, where the heat and the light conspire to keep everything in its place. The garden does not ask for attention, it simply exists, a quiet companion to the daily rhythms of the household. It is a place of small observations, where the light hits the curve of the birdbath, the way the ivy tendrils reach for the top of the fence, the way the gravel settles into the earth. Each element is a testament to the beauty of the small and the enclosed, a rejection of the vast in favor of the intimate and the known. As the day begins to fold into evening, the terrace garden catches the final, horizontal rays of the sun, turning the terracotta pots into glowing vessels of orange and red. The stone wall is a warm barrier, a hand-built line that marks the edge of the domestic world. Against the backdrop of the slate roof, the garden feels like an elevated sanctuary, a high point of peace within the residential landscape. The climbing roses are stationary, their heavy blooms bowing slightly under their own weight, yet held firm by the metal trellis. There is a richness to the light at this hour, a quality that makes every surface seem meaningful and deliberate. The house is so close that its presence is a physical comfort, a source of shade and stability. This is a garden of texture-rest rough stone, the smooth clay, the delicate silk of the flower petals, and the hard slate of the roof. All these elements are bound together by the golden light, creating a unified scene of quiet prosperity and rest. There is no sound of the city here, only the imagined hum of the garden itself as it prepares for the night. The enclosure is subtle but effective, created by the elevation and the proximity of the home's walls. It is a space designed for the eyes to rest, a visual exhale at the end of the day. The stillness is absolute, a frozen moment of beauty that requires nothing from the observer but their presence. The garden is a stage where the only performance is the slow change of light, a silent play that repeats with endless variation within the safety of the home's embrace. The transition from the wooden deck to the clover is a soft boundary, a place where the built environment yields to the persistence of the earth. The clogs, left side by side, are the only sign of human activity, and their stillness suggests a transition from work to rest. The light is flat and even, the kind of light that reveals the true color of the green leaves and the graying timber of the deck. Above, the tree branch hangs low, a natural ceiling that further encloses the space and heightens the feeling of being in a private room. This garden corner is small, perhaps only a few paces wide, yet it contains an entire world of detail. The clover is a dense mat of soft shapes, swallowing the light and muffling any potential sound. There is a sense of domesticity in the neatness of the scene, a feeling that this garden is cared for in the small moments of a day. The house is a constant, steady presence just out of center, providing the frame for this quiet life. The air is still, holding the scent of damp wood and crushed green stems. It is a place where the scale is perfectly matched to the human body, an intimate theater of the everyday. The stillness here feels intentional, a cultivated state of being that allows the mind to settle. There is no rush in this corner, no demand for growth or change. The deck, the clover, the tree, and the shoes exist in a harmonious stasis, a small pocket of peace that anchors the home to the ground. It is a scene of quietude, a visual representation of the pause that occurs when the day's tasks are laid aside. The kitchen garden is an extension of the house's interior, a pantry that breathes and grows in the open air. Located just a step from the door, it is a space of immediate utility and profound beauty. The raised beds are orderly and compact, their wooden sides holding back the dark, rich soil. In the early morning, the light stretches across the stone path, casting long, geometric shadows that emphasize the structure of the garden. The brick wall of the house is a warm, solid companion, its surface catching the first rays of the sun. There is a quiet productivity in the way the herbs stand tall and still, their leaves shimmering with a light coating of dew. This is not a place of wild growth, but of careful containment and residential peace. The enclosure is provided by the house itself, and perhaps a low fence or hedge just out of sight, creating a pocket of calm in the morning air. The silence is profound, broken only by the visual rhythm of the planting rows. Each herb, each leaf is a testament to the quiet continuity of life right outside the doorstep. The scale is small enough to be taken in with a single glance, yet complex enough to provide endless points of focus. The garden feels like a lived-in part of the home, as essential as any room. It is a space where the day begins with a quiet acknowledgement of the earth's generosity, a place of stillness that sets the tone for the hours to come. The house and the garden are one, a seamless blend of shelter and growth, held together by the soft, rising light. This passage is a study in verticality and enclosure, a thin slice of the outdoors captured between the architectural lines of the home. The Black River stones create a floor of dark, rounded shapes, their surfaces matte and cool in the indirect light. On one side, the glass wall of the house reflects the stone wall opposite, creating an illusion of infinite depth within a very tight space. The single fern is a defiant splash of green, its fronds perfectly still in the protected air of the corridor. There is a minimalist piece here, a reduction of the garden to its most essential elements: stone, light, and a single living thing. The scale is intensely private, a space that can only be moved through in single file or observed from behind the glass. The light is even and shadowless, filling the volume of the passage with a soft, white glow. It is a place of transit that has been transformed into a place of pause. The stillness is reinforced by the hard surface of the glass, the stone, the masonry which seem to vibrate with a quiet energy. The garden does not sprawl. It is held in a tight grip by the house, a curated experience of nature within the heart of the residence. It is a scene of profound stillness, where the absence of color and movement allows the eye to appreciate the subtle textures of the materials. The world outside is completely invisible, replaced by this internal sanctum of stone and glass. It is a quiet, modern grotto, a place where the air feels filtered and the silence is absolute. The circularity of the patio creates a sense of completion, a small island of order within the soft, hazy green of the lavender ring. The weathered bricks are a tapestry of oranges, reds, and grays, their uneven surfaces telling the story of years spent under the sun and rain. The iron table stands in the exact center, its delicate legs casting thin shadows on the ground. This is a secret room without walls, enclosed by the fragrance and the density of the surrounding plants. The shingled house looms nearby, a protective presence that anchors the garden to the residential reality. The midday sun is filtered through a light haze, softening the shadows and giving the entire scene a dreamlike, timeless quality. Nothing moves. The lavender spikes are upright and still, their purple tips reaching toward the light. The air is heavy with the scent of the garden and the warmth of the brick. It is a space designed for a single moment of rest, a place to sit and exist within the enclosure of the home's perimeter. The scale is intimate, a perfect circle of peace that feels entirely separate from the rest of the world. There is no view beyond the lavender and the house, no distraction from the immediate environment. The silence is a physical presence, a weight that settles over the patio and keeps everything in its place. It is a garden of focus, where the small details, the texture of a brick, the curve of a metal chair, the shade of a leaf become the entire universe for a few quiet minutes. In the narrow margin between the house foundation and the garden fence, a small world of tranquility has been established. The stone statue sits in a state of eternal repose, surrounded by the fine, hair-like blades of the decorative grasses. The wooden gate is closed, a literal and symbolic barrier that marks the end of the public world and the beginning of the private. The basement window, half buried in the earth, provides a glimpse into the home's inner life, while the garden outside offers a quiet, green counterpart. The afternoon light is soft and directional, highlighting the carved features of the stone and the delicate tips of the grass. This is a garden of the small and the low, a place that requires one to look down to see the beauty. The scale is minute, a micro-landscape that thrives in a space most would overlook. The stillness is absolute. The grasses do not sway and the stone remains unmoved. There is a sense of deep, subterranean peace here, a feeling that the garden is rooted in the very bones of the house. The enclosure is tight and protective, a small nook of calm that exists alongside the daily passage of life. The silence is thick, a combination of the earth's density and the house's mass. It is a place of quiet observation, where the passage of time is measured in the slow growth of moss on the stone and the gradual fading of the gate's wood. Here, in this forgotten corner, the essence of the peaceful residential garden is captured in a single, unmoving frame. The space between the garage and the main house is often a utility zone, but here it has been transformed into a quiet courtyard of gray gravel and soft light. The Japanese maple, contained within its large terracotta pot, is the focal point of this internal world. Its delicate leaves a burst of color against the neutral tones of the buildings. The wooden lattice screen provides an extra layer of privacy, breaking the view into small, manageable squares. In the cool morning light, the colors are muted and the shadows are soft, creating an atmosphere of calm neutrality. The gravel is smooth and level, a sea of gray that swallows any sound of footsteps. There is no wind to stir the maple's leaves. They hang in a state of perfect suspension, as if painted against the air. This garden is a bridge between the functional parts of the residence, a place of transit that encourages a moment of pause. The enclosure is complete, formed by the three vertical walls of the house, the garage, and the screen. It is a room with a floor of stone and a ceiling of sky, a private hollow within the domestic footprint. The stillness is structural, built into the very arrangement of the elements. It feels like a space that has always been this quiet, a permanent reservoir of peace. The house and the garage stand like silent sentinels, guarding the small tree and the gray stones from the distractions of the outside world. It is a scene of understated beauty, where the lack of movement is the most prominent feature. The stone path curves gently, leading the eye away from the house and toward the deep shade of the pergola. Covered in a dense mat of jasmine vines, the structure is a green cave, a place of absolute retreat within the small garden. Above, the house's chimney and roofline provide a familiar domestic frame, reminding one that this sanctuary is only a few feet from the hearth. The sunlight is filtered through the leaves, creating a pattern of light and dark on the stone path that feels like a silent, shifting map. The bench is partially obscured, a secret destination that promises rest and invisibility. There is no movement in the jasmine, no swaying of the vines. The air is held still by the density of the growth. The scent of the garden is thick and sweet, a physical layer of the atmosphere. This is a garden of discovery, a small space that feels much larger because of its layers and hidden corners. The enclosure is organic, created by the height of the vines and the proximity of the house. The stillness is profound, a combination of the visual weight of the plants and the physical shelter of the pergola. It is a place where the world is reduced to the scent of jasmine and the texture of stone, a private landscape of the senses. The house stands as a silent witness to this quiet world, its solid presence a guarantee of safety and continuity. In this small, enclosed garden, the concept of a peaceful living is made tangible in every leaf and every shadow. The square lawn is a patch of vibrant green, a perfect geometric form set within the boundaries of the hedge and the fence. This garden is a classic expression of residential peace, a small, tidy world that reflects the order and care of the home. The white picket fence is a clear and friendly boundary, while the boxwood hedge adds a layer of solid, dark green texture. In the corner, the house's porch suggests a place for observation, a transition zone between the interior and the garden. The afternoon sun is soft and warm, casting long, gentle shadows across the grass. There is no activity here. The lawn is a blank slate of stillness, its surface undisturbed by wind or footfall. The scale is modest and human, a space that can be easily understood and maintained. The enclosure is light but definite, creating a sense of belonging and protection. The atmosphere is one of timeless suburban quiet, a scene that feels like it could belong to any decade of the last century. The house and the garden are in perfect harmony, each reflecting the quiet dignity of the other. The silence is not empty, but full of the presence of the home and the life lived within its walls. It is a garden of repose, a visual exhale that celebrates the beauty of the simple and the well-kept. Every blade of grass and every picket of the fence contributes to a sense of absolute stability and peace. In this urban enclosure, the garden becomes a vertical room, its boundaries defined by the high, weathered brick walls that climb toward a small square of blue sky. The flagstones are large and pale, reflecting the midday sun and filling the space with a bright, clean light. The tall reeds in their minimalist pots are the only vertical elements, their thin stems standing perfectly still against the masonry. A neighbor's window is visible high above, a reminder of the density of the city, yet the garden itself feels completely isolated and private. This is a space of subtraction, where everything has been removed except for the essential elements of stone, light, and sky. The scale is tight and vertical, a deep well of quiet in a busy world. The air is still, trapped by the height of the walls and warmed by the reflection of the sun on the stone. There is no sound from the street, only the visual stillness of the reeds and the bricks. The enclosure is absolute, a stone-lined sanctuary that provides a literal and figurative breathing space. The house is a part of this wall, its presence felt in the texture of the masonry and the angle of the shadow it casts. It is a garden of contemplation, a place where the gaze is naturally drawn upward toward the light. The silence here is architectural, a product of the enclosure and the materials, creating a pocket of peace that feels solid and enduring. As the day fades into twilight, the garden enters its most intimate phase, a time of soft light and deepening shadows. The small lights on the fence provide a warm, rhythmic glow that marks the boundary of the space. The evergreen shrubs in their stone planters are dark, solid shapes that anchor the garden to the earth, their texture softened by the low light. In the background, a single glowing window of the house suggests a warm interior, a counterpoint to the cool blue of the evening air. The stillness is complete. The lights do not flicker and the branches do not move. This is a garden of transition, a space that bridges the day and the night with a sense of quiet grace. The scale is small and protective, a comfortable room of stone and leaves that feels like an extension of the home's warmth. The enclosure is enhanced by the darkness, which pulls the boundaries in and focuses the attention on the immediate surroundings. The atmosphere is one of deep, settled peace, the kind of quiet that comes at the end of a long day. The house is a beacon of light and life, its presence a comforting frame for the garden's stillness. It is a scene of domestic contentment, where the world is reduced to the soft glow of a window and the steady presence of the evergreens. Here, in the final light of the day, the garden is a place of absolute arrival, a sanctuary where nothing is happening and nothing needs to.